I'm sure someday I might get like a green screen or something so that whenever I'm just, here talking, you can see, I don't know, maybe some kind of fancy animation in the background like people tend to do these days. Instead of just, whatever happens to be in my background at the time. Which in this case is my my desktop setup. Which you gotta admit is a very decent setup. But anyway, that's not why I'm making this video. So yeah, for the rest of you who are not that interested in it, I'm sorry, but you're just gonna have to look at it. I suppose I could, do this, make my bubble timer go, make it a little more interesting. Anyway, so the topic of today's video is should the Joker, or I should say, could the Joker have been PG-13 and still been good? Now, underline those words, please. And still have been good. Sorry, I didn't say that exactly the same, but whatever. Could this movie have been PG-13 and still have been good? That's the question for today. See, the question really isn't, could the Joker have been PG-13? Because that answer is pretty obvious. Yes, it could have been PG-13. They absolutely could have made it PG-13 if they really wanted to. Because you can do that with pretty much any movie. We had a PG-13 rated RoboCop, for crying out loud. It was horrible, but we got it. I'll have to review that movie some other time. But anyway, so this is a question that's been on my mind a lot lately. So Joker, as you can see here, showing on the back here, sorry. So the movie is rated R. Sorry, it's a little blurry. Let me read it for you. So the Joker movie is rated R for, their exact words here, strong bloody violence, disturbing behavior, language, and brief sexual images. The exact ratings for why the Joker is rated R. But, the question that's been pondering in my mind on and off, basically since the first time I saw this movie in theaters, and it came back to my mind today, and I thought, why not do a video about it? Today we're going to discuss, could the movie have been PG-13 and still have been good? And like I said, those are very important words because if the answer is no, the movie would not have been good if it were PG-13, then the answer is pretty obvious. Then, no, they made the right choice in making the movie R instead of PG-13. But did they, though? That's the question. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So I've already discussed why the movie's rated R, the reasons and all that. I want to go through these reasons one by one and explain how necessary they are, I think, to the overall message, for lack of a better word. I know it's kind of a corny way of putting it, but the overall message of the movie, basically, for just lack of a better way of explaining it. So I'm going to start with disturbing behavior, because that's a reason on here. So let me just start with that. I don't really know what the MPAA is referring to when they say disturbing behavior. Like, what does that mean? I mean, I agree, there is disturbing behavior in the movie. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I forgot. I should have done this earlier, but I'm 3 minutes, 21 seconds in. I'm not restarting this video now because I'm not going to do that. But before I go any further, I will just say this. There are going to be spoilers, obviously, for the Joker movie. If by chance you have not seen the movie and you don't want it spoiled, well, you probably shouldn't watch anymore. In fact, I'm sorry I wasted 3.5 minutes of your life. You can hate me as much as you want for that. I'm really sorry. But spoilers, you have been warned. If you have not seen the movie and you care. But anyway, okay, so disturbing behavior. Let's get back to that. What does that even mean? Like, what does the MPAA mean when they say disturbing behavior? Because like I said, yeah, is there disturbing behavior in the movie? Yes, there is. But is it worthy of an R rating, though? Because, because any scene I know of in the movie that I can look at and go, oh yeah, that's why I got an R rating. None of it has to do with disturbing behavior. Like, okay, strong bloody violence, okay, I get that. Language, I also get, which I'll get to that later. And brief sexual images, which I don't even remember what that is, honestly. But, I think it might be like a picture in a magazine or something. I don't remember, but... okay, but yeah, disturbing behavior. Okay, wasn't there disturbing behavior in The Dark Knight? I'm pretty sure there was some disturbing behavior in that movie. If you've seen The Dark Knight, if you've seen Heath Ledger's Joker, yeah, there's some pretty disturbing behavior from Heath Ledger's incarnation of the character. Now, I don't want to make a whole lot of comparisons between the two characters, because I get it. Heath Ledger's Joker and Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, they're very different incarnations of the Joker. I'm not gonna, debate on which one's better than the other. I'm not gonna do all that. But there are some pretty big differences between the two. So yeah, I don't understand what the MPAA means by that at all. Disturbing behavior, yeah, it's in the movie, but again, I don't know why it would be worthy of an R rating. I kind of just feel like they just stuck that in there for no reason, You guys do have to bear in mind, the MPAA, they have put unnecessary words in their ratings before. Like, what was that one movie? Jungle Adventure Terror was an official MPAA rating explanation. I forgot what the movie was, but just Google Jungle Adventure Terror and you should find it. Seriously, it's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. You also have to remember, too, we're also talking about the same organization that put, and I quote here, all involving puppets in an MPAA rating as well. So there's that. So sometimes the MPAA ratings just don't make any sense. And disturbing behavior, I don't know what they mean by that. There's no disturbing behavior that doesn't involve strong bodily violence or anything else on the list. Okay, so like for everyone who says, well, the scene where he kills Randall, that doesn't count because that's R-rated, not because it's disturbing behavior, but because it's in the strong bodily violence category. So just disturbing behavior by itself, nothing. Like, that's just, no. I don't even know what that means. I'm not going to talk anymore about that. So, that's my thoughts on that. Okay, let's talk about the language here. So, the question with the language. So, there's about 25, give or take, F-bombs in the movie Joker. Now, of course, if you know anything about the MPAA rating guidelines or the system, how it works, you know that anything more than 2 F-bombs, I think, maybe it's 3, I think it's 2, but correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, 2, 3, whatever. Point is, there are 25 F-bombs in this movie, which is absolutely enough to warrant the R rating. But I have to ask myself the question, though, because again, the discussion isn't really, is the rating fair? The rating's fair, except for the disturbing behavior part. That's just stupid. But except for that, it's a fair rating for what the movie is. That's not the discussion here. Discussion is, could the movie have been reduced to PG-13 and still been good? So, going back to the language here. So basically my question here right now is, could the movie have not had the language it has in it and still have been good? Now, for this one, you guys have to forgive me. I know I'm going to sound a lot like the husband of the homeschool mother who lives in Colorado Springs writing a movie review on Focus on the Family's website. You have to forgive me if this comes across that way. But honestly, I don't think the F-bombs in this movie really did the movie any good. Now, I'm not saying, the movie sucks now because of the F-bombs. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, I don't think the F-bombs in this movie really added anything to the story. Now, one exception I will give, and something else too, because like I said earlier, you can have 1 or 2, maybe 3 F-bombs. I'm just going to say 2. You can have like 2 F-bombs in a movie, and it'd still be PG-13. Now, as far as the F-bombs in this movie goes, like, if hypothetically they were like, okay, we're going to edit this movie, and we're going to delete all the F-bombs except for 2. Let's look for 2 F-bombs we'll keep. We'll get rid of the other ones. I have no doubt one of the F-bombs they would have kept had they gone that route would have been the scene near the end when Joker's on the talk show with Franklin Murray right before he kills him. It's like, I'll tell you what you get. You get what you deserve. Sorry, I don't swear on my channel. Get over it if you don't like that. But that F-bomb, like, that's like probably the most iconic F-bomb in the whole movie. And really, like, not even, like, so much because it's an F-bomb. I don't know, really. But point is, if they were going to go that, let's delete all but 2 F-bombs route, that's probably one they could have kept. So for you people out there who are going to say something like, oh, they shouldn't have deleted the F-bombs, because that line at the end, that was a great line at the end. Well, again, they could have kept that one and gotten rid of all the others. You know what I mean? And so the limit is 2, I think. So they could have kept one other one. I can't really think of one other one they would have kept. So I'm just going to say they probably could have kept that one F-bomb where he's on the talk show. The other ones I think they could have gotten rid of. Because like all the other F-bombs I can think of, which I can't remember every single instance of the F-word in the movie. But there's a few I remember other than the talk show one. And really none of them. Like, okay, like Randall uses a few F-bombs when he's having, some conversation with Arthur Fleck. And it's like none of his F-bombs really made any difference in the movie whatsoever. Like you could have, like, or no, he's not talking to Arthur Fleck. He's talking to the midget dude. right before he dies. And it's like, if it was a effing midget, you know, you'd be in jail right now. It's like, okay, that F-bomb specifically, good example. Again, they could have deleted that F-bomb from the script, would have not made any difference in the scene whatsoever. None. And that's how I feel about pretty much every F-bomb in this movie, other than that one at the end. Like, okay, even, like, okay, that one guy who kills Thomas Wayne, and he repeats the Joker, he's like, hey, Wayne, you get what you deserve. Like, even that one, I don't think was that necessary. Maybe... but again, okay, 2 F-bombs. Okay, so those are the two. Those are the 2 F-bombs we'd keep in the movie. The other ones, just get rid of. And there you go. You have PG-13 level language. That, really, to me, you do that. I don't think doing that would have negatively influenced the quality of the film in the end. And understand, too, this is why I'm making the argument, could the movie have been PG-13 and still have been good? Because, you know, like I said earlier, I don't want to sound like the focus on the family.com review or whatever, who basically, like, because I've read some of those stupid reviews, and it's like, this movie was so offensive because they said the S word at one point. Look, swear words are just a part of life, okay? I know not everybody likes swear words, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's like, I don't know, this is a topic for another video, I think, but it's like, swear words are not always, like, there's a difference between the Seth Rogen comedy, or just F word, because that's so funny, right? Using the F word every other word, it just makes everything funnier. Especially when it's in animation. Like the Sausage Party, right? I died laughing when I saw that trailer. Not. But that's a topic for another time, too. Anyway, point is, you know, there's a big difference in the context of when you use a swear word. Many times it works. Like the swear words in Saving Private Ryan worked great. In the most Seth Rogen comedies, I just, no. In most cases, it just, no. No. Just no. And I feel like with Joker, again, like the swear words in this movie, just by and large, are just not necessary. Again, you could have cut the F words out, minus those 2, would have negatively affected the quality of the movie. In my opinion, no, it would not have. I really feel like the 25 F words in this movie, just as a whole, it's almost like the studio knew the movie was going to be R-rated, so they kind of just were like, well, we don't really care. Just throw them in there, because why not? Because we can. Why not? Because if you cut out the F words, but nothing else in the movie, it still would have been R, because of the strong bloody violence. We'll talk about that next. Strong bloody violence. Okay, yeah, so there's 2 scenes in the movie. So I've already covered language, I'm going to move on from that. So there's 2 scenes in the movie that are pretty violent, that to me are the scenes that crossed into the R-rated threshold. Those 2 scenes are, the first scene is the scene where Joker kills Randall, his former coworker from his job that he got fired from. Was it Ha-Ha's, I think is where he used to work. So, he kills Randall, right? Now, that is, like, the most violent scene, bar none, in the entire movie. That's a brutal scene. Like, when he takes the scissors, stabs him, there's, like, blood all over the wall. Like, it's a pretty gruesome scene. I agree, I totally agree with the MPAA on giving that an R rating. Like I said, it's not about whether the rating's fair. For that one scene alone, absolutely it is. But let's talk about this for a second now. Could they have reduced the scene, maybe refilmed or re-angled the scene, let's just say, and filmed it in a way that was PG-13 acceptable, and would it have had the same impact? Now, this to me is kind of a tricky one. This is less straightforward in my opinion than the F words. Like I said, the F words, you know, that's like, yeah, the swearing they could have kept easily at PG-13 level, not a problem. The violence, I think, is a little harder. But ultimately, I do think if they had angled the scene right, like, okay, here's what I'm thinking. Because I don't think there's really any feasible way to take the existing scene, the R-rated scene in the movie, and, like, cut things out or re-angled, cropped, or whatever. Made it PG-13. Like, if they had done that, the scene would have been crap. Okay, let's just say, you know, sometimes, like, you watch a R-rated movie on TV, and it's, like, the TV-14 edit, and there's just, like, some bizarre edit. It's like, oh my gosh, what was, like, I understand you gotta edit down to a TV-14 audience, but wow! That was awkward. Yeah, I've seen some of those edits before. Like I saw Die Hard on TV not too last Christmas. It was a TV airing, and there's some pretty weird edits in there. But yeah, let's just say okay. So yeah, I don't think they could have like taken the existing scene and edited that down to PG-13. So I wonder how Joker's gonna look if it ever does get a TV-14 airing. That's gonna be interesting. But could they have filmed the scene differently? Is the question. I do think if they'd angled it right, and Joker like takes the scissors, he's like stabbing Randall coworker dude like off camera. He's just like stabbing like the daylights out of it, and you hear like those disgusting sounds. So if you get the scissors going in, just sorry, that didn't sound too accurate, but you know what I'm talking about. I think they could have made a decent version of that scene. Like, they would have had to film it differently. Camera angles would have had to have been different. They obviously could not have, like, the big stain of blood on the background whenever Joker was talking to the midget dude before he, went on his merry way. But I do think they could have maybe angled that differently, and we could have had a decent version of the scene. Would it have been as good as the version we got? That I think we're getting into the subjective territory here, because I think some people will probably disagree with me on this. They'll probably say, nope, the best version of the scene that could ever exist is the one that's in the final cut of this movie. And if that's how you feel, then it's fine. It's not really a right or wrong thing here. I'm just explaining how I feel. But I do think they could have filmed it differently had it been PG-13, and I still think it would have been fine. I think the overall, what the movie was trying to convey, because okay, like the scene where he kills Randall, I think that's the scene where he like really becomes Joker. It's like the last scene you see before the iconic dancing on the stairs scene. Like that's pretty much like when he's Joker. So I think that's why they were going for the really appalling, the shock factor, if you will, which I think is why this is the most violent scene in the movie. So I do get why they did that. I just think they could have done it PG-13 and still found a way to at least somewhat convey that message. Now, whether or not it would have been as good, I think that's, like I said, that's like totally subjective territory. I wouldn't really mind, but, that's how people... If other people disagree, I'm not going to, like, say you're wrong or anything, Again, that's just how I feel. So that covers the first scene. Now, let's talk about the second scene. Now, the second violent scene, I said there were two scenes. The second one is, obviously, when he kills the talk show host, Franklin Murray. That's a really dirty shot, too. I mean, it is. It's just, you pull out the gun, just, the way his head flies, like, oh my gosh. Like, it's such a well-done scene, But again, kind of like the Randall killing scene, I mean, that's not PG-13 level. That scene alone is, I mean, yeah, it's an R-rated scene. Not as violent as the Randall killing scene, but it's still an R-rated scene, no doubt. But again, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, because honestly, I feel the same way about this scene as I did with the Randall scene. Again, they could have angled it differently. If they can do that the Randall scene, which I have already conveyed that I think they can, I feel pretty much the same way about the Franklin Murray scene. I think they could have angled it differently, made it a little less violent. I still think it would have been fine. So, pretty much copy and paste my thoughts on that. So those are really the two violent scenes in the movie. Now notice I didn't talk about the subway killings, because to me, the subway killings really aren't R-rated material. I mean, okay, so when he kills the three Wall Street dudes on the subway, I mean, like, we see some blood splatter on the window, but that's really it. It's nowhere near as bad as the Randall killing scene, which is still, like, bar none, the most violent scene in the movie. It's not even a contest. And, yeah, it's kind of violent, but I don't think it's, like, R-rated level violent. I mean, you can have some blood in a PG-13 movie. I've seen people before who have this common misconception that it's like, you can't have any blood in a PG-13 rated movie. That is not true. Okay? I mean, okay, have you seen the scene in Captain America: First Avenger where the dude flies into the freaking propeller and just this big... It's like blink you miss it, but there's like this big splat of blood for a split second. That scene, which, again, Captain America: First Avenger, PG-13, that scene is way more violent than the subway killings. Not as violent as the Randall killing or the Franklin Murray scene, but definitely more violent than the subway killings, I will say. So I just don't think the subway killings are really a factor for the movie getting an R rating. So I didn't really talk about that. I think that's... But okay, even if for whatever reason the MPAA was like, nope, we gotta give that an R rating. Again, because it's so close to the PG-13 R line, would have been really easy to maybe digitally remove some of the blood or whatever. They could have made it PG-13, would have been fine. So that's my thoughts on the bloody violence. And then I guess really the only other violent scene I can think of is maybe when Thomas Wayne dies, but I don't. Yeah, that's already a PG-13 scene. So that's why that's why that question's on my mind so much, because it's like there's already so much material in the movie that's PG-13. Joker's like a 95% PG-13 movie. It only got an R rating for a select few reasons, a select few areas in the movie. And that's why I don't really understand why it's R-rated, because it's like, so much of the movie's already PG-13. Why do they have to cross the line in so few areas? I don't really get it. I kind of feel like, and maybe it's just me, but I kind of feel like ever since Deadpool came out, people have been kind of hopping on the R-rated comic book bandwagon, because they think, well, if it's R-rated, maybe they'll draw more people in to see the movie, which, Joker was a great movie, and it made over $1 billion at the box office. I'm not really sure the R-rated reason is why. Maybe it was. We'll never know for sure, because that's an alternate timeline we will never get to live on. But yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like DC in general kind of hopped on that Deadpool bandwagon, because I think it really started with the extended edition of Batman vs. Superman. Now, I haven't seen Batman vs. Superman, so maybe I'm not the most qualified person to talk about this, but it's like, from what I've heard, it's really just a longer version of Batman vs. Superman with digital blood splotches thrown in. It's like, was that necessary? And the R-rated edition, or unrated, whatever, the extended edition of Suicide Squad was the same way. It was just like a longer version of the already existing movie with digital blood splats. That was basically R-rated, although it may have technically been unrated. I don't know, but point is, like, DC, I feel like really, because Deadpool's Marvel, and after Deadpool was a huge success, DC was like, we can do that too, And please understand, I'm not comparing this movie to the extended edition of Suicide Squad or Batman vs. Superman. I haven't seen either of those extended versions, but I have no doubt they're nowhere near as good as this movie. So just so you guys know. So that pretty much covers it. I mean, yeah, just violence-wise, I think they could have kept it PG-13. I don't think it would have negatively impacted the movie a whole lot. Language, absolutely not. Violence, maybe a little bit, but again, not a whole lot. It's not like the movie would have been terrible if they had, gone with the PG-13 route, like I just explained. And that pretty much covers it. I guess the only other thing that covers brief sexual images, which I don't even remember what that is. Like, my mind is totally blank. I don't even know what the brief sexual images is. I mean, if there's really anything of that nature in the movie that's R-rated, it was not necessary, because it's just like there and gone again. And I don't remember anything of that sort being pivotal to the movie. I mean, good heavens, if the F words weren't that pivotal, then yeah, I can't imagine that's any more pivotal. So you could probably just gotten rid of that altogether. I don't remember people ever saying, the movie was so great because it was the 3 seconds of whatever. Again, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's like a newspaper or something that you barely see in the background, like one shot. That might have been it, and if that's the case, I don't even know why they bothered. Really, but whatever. So, in conclusion, I will say, in my opinion, the very short answer, the not 23.5-minute long answer, is yes, I do think the movie could have been PG-13 and still have been good. And understand too, if I felt otherwise, if I felt no, the movie shouldn't have been PG-13 because the movie wouldn't have been as good, I would not be advocating for that, really. But I don't really understand why studios go for the R rating when they don't need to. Well, okay, I guess I take that back. In Joker's case, like I said, I do think they were trying to capitalize on the R rating because of Deadpool. But still, I think with Joker specifically, I don't really think they need to do that. Because, we don't need an R rating to have a really disturbing Joker. I mean, again, look at Heath Ledger's Joker. And I know Heath Ledger is pretty different from Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. But you gotta admit, Heath Ledger's Joker was a pretty dark take on the character. You gotta admit. And Dark Knight was still PG-13. And not only was that a good movie, it's one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. Like, Dark Knight pretty much revolutionized the comic book genre in the film industry. And it's PG-13, so, if Christopher Nolan can do it, well, I know he's a really talented director, but still. I mean, point is, if he can do it, anyone else can. And I do think they could have done that with this movie. Just my opinion. If you disagree, well, you can hate me as much as you want to, but it's not going to change my mind, so don't even bother trying if that's your motivation, because it won't work. In closing, I guess I will say, I was going to say something, but I forgot what it was. I don't know. Maybe I already said it and just didn't realize it. So that's pretty much my thoughts. That's all I've got to say. This is Clear Sky Productions. Thank you as always for watching. Try to get this video uploaded pretty quickly before I go to work. And that's about it. So until next time, folks. Oh yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you agree, disagree, whatever. If you disagree, I would love to hear your thoughts, explanations, and why and all that. But I'm going to wrap it up because I've been talking for long enough. So until next time, this is Clear Sky Productions signing off. Good night, folks.